All right, so welcome everybody to officially this is called Standing Together Online, an interfaith dialogue event. And this is actually a very new project for us, and so this is going to be a little bit of a test, and I appreciate everyone being here and willing to play along and help us test this whole thing out. So just so you know, this project has been initiated by an organization called IslamiCity. IslamiCity is one of the largest Muslim websites in the world, and they're on a mission to counteract Islamophobia and create peace in the world through sharing the correct understanding of Islam. And so this interfaith dialogue event is a part of that effort. And we're actually hoping we can begin to do this on an ongoing basis. And then the other reason why this event is called Standing Together is because we're using, there's an organization called the Christian Muslim Consultative Group, CMCG for short. And CMCG created this beautiful model for creating dialogue between Muslims and Christians. And their dialogue series or system model, it's called Standing Together. So we're bringing together the Standing Together model online. And so hence here we are, Standing Together online. So that's just about a little bit about who is behind initiating this project. And our agenda for today is going to be really simple. The idea behind being on YouTube Live is that we'll be able to see each other and we'll be able to hear each other on screen. And so hopefully we can develop a much closer sense of connection even as we're interacting online. So we are going to basically do brief introductions to start things off, and then we are going to basically move into discussion. And we actually have a little bit of an activity for us to do, and that'll help us step into an awesome discussion and begin to get to know each other. Sounds good? Coolness. Okay, and then we'll just wrap things up. And as we wrap things up, again, because this is something very new for us, I would love to get some feedback from everyone on how your experience has been and what we can do to improve it even further, and yeah, and what next steps we can take together. All right. So with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually do a little screen. Oh, no, wait. What we have to do is introduce ourselves to everyone. So I'm going to ask you one at a time to unmute yourself so that we can hear you. And when you unmute yourself, just take maybe like 2 minutes or so to introduce yourself. And as you introduce yourself, let us, of course, know your name and what faith tradition you identify with, and at least one thing that you love about yourself. All right, and to the very first person I'm going to ask to unmute is Aiko. Go for it.
Okay, I missed what all I'm supposed to say about myself, but I'm Mary, and yeah, I'm a Christian. I met Samia a year-ish ago, and just like meeting people, learning about cultures, peace building, all that kind of stuff. I have with me Adrian, and she's also a Christian and has been involved with Two Faiths, One Friendship stuff. So,
Yes, welcome to you both. Awesome. Oh, one thing you love about yourself, Mary Jones?
one thing I love about myself. Let's see. I have 6 siblings. I think that's kind of a fun thing about myself. It's not any credit to me, but it's fun.
It is fun. Our family makes a huge impact on us, so I definitely found that as something about you. Coolness. Okay, so Nabiha, would you like to give it a go next?
Hi, I'm Nabiha, and I'm Muslim, and one thing I love about myself is my smile.
Nice.
And this is my mom, Maliha.
Hi, I'm Maliha, her mom. So I was looking into the conversations and said, let me see what it's all about. And I love to cook and entertain. That's just so. What else do I like? And like to read stuff.
And we love to
And
eat.
I'm Muslim.
Yes. Goodness. And just so everyone knows, disclosure, technically Nabiha is my cousin and Malia Mami is my aunt. And so you may hear me call her Mommy because she's my aunt, and that's a respectful thing for us to do in my culture. All right, coolness. So Ruth, I see she's not in a place right now where she can actually actively contribute, so she's just going to be watching us. So Shanu Mami, who's also my aunt, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, her mic is not working. Okay, all right, no worries. So since we have at least two, maybe three people whose mics are not working, we can, you know what? The rest of us will just have to make even more awesome conversation, and the others are contributing through chat. So we'll keep an eye open for that. So Ruth and I know each other through the physical standing together dialogue meetings that we did, which is really cool. We did our meetings in LA. We're all local to LA, so that's cool. All right. Okay, so now I'm ready for our activity, which will require me to screen share. So give me a moment as we transition into screen sharing mode. All right, so let's see. There we go, screen share, application window, and share. All right, so let's see. You should be able to see the slide presentation now. And go into present mode. And all right, so here I'm going to give you a number of prompts, and all you need to do is sort of read through the different options under each prompt and pick the option that you think is the best for you, that makes the most sense to you or is most applicable to you. And there is no right or wrong answers here. It's just about what feels best to you. And you can pick more than one option if you really, really want to. All right. Okay, so as you pick options for yourself, just grab a piece of paper or in the note application on your computers. Just make a note of which option you're picking for yourself. And then we'll sort of discuss later what options we have picked. So our very first prompt is, I see prayer as. And the options are wishful thinking, a direct line to God, magic, a lifesaver, key to my sanity, a psychological exercise, powerful, a daily practice, a positive thinking. Okay, so I'm going to zoom. You've had enough time, and I'm going to move on to the next prompt. I think of Jesus as, and your options are a great guy, a wise teacher, a miracle worker, a Jewish rebel, confused, a courageous rabbi, one of many teachers, a great prophet, my savior, my best friend. All right, so just pick one, and next prompt. Oh, I think of Muhammad as a great guy, a wise teacher, a miracle worker, a Muslim rebel, confused, a courageous man, one of many teachers, a great prophet, my savior, or my best friend. Alrighty, pick one. And next. I see the Quran as hard to understand, uplifting, hard to apply, full of violence, too far removed from our culture, old-fashioned, full of promises, the secret to life, having too many passages or pages. Okay, pick one. And next. I see the Bible as hard to understand, uplifting, hard to apply, full of violence, too far removed from our culture, old-fashioned, full of promises, the secret to life, having too many pages. All right. Okay, so I think that was it. That was our last prompt. We're going to go ahead and stop the screen share mode. All right. So did everyone have time to pick their responses? Yes. Okay. Alrighty. Coolness, awesomeness. Okay. So for the Eiko, do you want to give it another try with the audio and see if it works any better? Cool. No, you're still on mute. Okay, so all right. Let's go back to Mary Jones, and we'll just focus on the first prompt, which was about I see prayer as. What was your response, Mary Jones?
The one that stuck out to me biggest was powerful. And then I also liked a direct line to God and a lifesaver, because it's like, yeah, I go to him when I need more power than I have. I should go to him more often, but that's when I know I go. So.
Very true. Awesomeness. Okay, how about you, Nabia? What was your response to the prompt, I see prayer as?
So I said a direct line to God. That stood out to me most.
Cool.
I think my mom wants to.
Yeah, I also thought it was a direct line to God to pray, and we can just ask him for anything, and that's nice.
Coolness. And wait, sorry. Mary Jones, I know I've met your friend.
It's okay. Her name's Adrian.
Introduction again, and I forgot your name. So sorry. You need to participate too, please. Did you pick a prompt option?
Yeah, I saw prayer as powerful.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, if I have to just pick one, I'd say powerful. But number two also would be direct line to God, because there's so much he can change when we just ask.
Yes.
And the power's in him. So It's like, okay.
Very true. And remind me of your name, so sorry.
Adrian.
Adrian.
Yeah, I'll type it.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, coolness. So with that, all right. So Ruth, if you want to go ahead and type in the prompt you chose, that would be awesome. And then, Shanimami, also go ahead, type in your response. Ruth says powerful and a direct link to God. We're getting a lot of responses on that. Awesomeness. Okay, and I guess I should also pick one. And I think for me also, definitely a direct line to God and a daily practice are the two that speak most to me. And for Shanu Mami, also a direct line to God. Coolness. Awesome. Okay, so let's go to the next prompt. I think of Jesus as. And Eiko, what was your choice? You can either type it. Oh, my best friend. Coolness. Awesome. And what about you guys, Adrian and Mary Jones?
This is an incredibly difficult question because I looked at all the answers and I was like, I agree with almost every single one of them. As far as like one that encompasses more, I would have to go with the Savior one just because it seems to catch almost everything. Because he was like the greatest example on how to be close to God and how to be human. So, yep, I'd go with that.
Cool. Sounds good to me. All right. What about Nabiha and Malia Mami?
A great prophet for me.
Yeah, the same. I think because in Islam, Jesus was a prophet, so definitely a great prophet.
Yeah.
And a miracle worker.
Yeah.
Cool. And I see Eiko responded, my best friend. And Shanu Mami responded, a direct line to God. And Ruth thinks of Jesus as my savior, even though several other statements also apply. That's a pick one. Coolness. And Shanu Mami says, a great prophet and a wise teacher. And for me, also, I think a lot of them apply. Definitely a great prophet, definitely miracle worker, definitely wise teacher. Oh my gosh. Yeah, even the other ones are the Jewish rebel, Kurdish rabbi. I mean, I guess in a way that they're also applicable. I mean, there's a lot of great options here. Cool. Okay. So let's see. Next prompt. I think of Muhammad as. So go ahead, Eiko, type in your response. And the same with other people without audio. And then while you guys are doing that, Mary Jones and Adrian.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Great Prophet because I've learned quite a bit about him. I had a question. Are there stories of him doing miracles? Like, did he do some?
Yes. We will get into a little bit more detailed discussion about the topics of these prompts later on. The short answer to your question is yes. Coolness. All right. So Nabiha and Malia Mami. What about you guys?
Yeah, so Prophet Muhammad is definitely a great prophet.
Great prophet, yeah. The last prophet. We consider him the last of the prophets. With the book, which is a miracle, the Quran is, if we read it, it's like the words of God are pouring out from them. So the Quran itself is his miracle and very interesting to read.
Yes, okay. And then Eiko says a great prophet. Shani Mami says we believe in all the prophets. That's the beauty of Islam. Ruth says a great prophet and a wise teacher. And also Shani Mami says a great prophet. Okay, coolness. And for me, also definitely a great prophet. And if I absolutely had to pick another one, what I want. Also, I really like the Muslim rebel idea also.
He's the first.
Indeed. Well, depending on how you look at the word Muslim.
Abraham and yeah.
Yes. If you think of Muslim like with a little m as anyone who submits to the will of God, which is the literal meaning of Muslim. then he's just one in the tradition of like the prophets, like Shanumani was indicating. So Abraham was a Muslim from our perspective. All the other prophets were essentially
The just submitted one to God.
Yes, exactly. So that's Muslim with a little m. Coolness. So awesomeness. Okay, so next prompt was I see the Quran as. And we'll go in the same order. Everyone type who's not having audio, type in your responses. And Mary Jones and Adrian, give us your responses first.
Yeah, it's really challenging to apply to everyday life. I haven't gotten through all of it, but the parts I've gotten through, some of it, it's like, yeah, you would require help from God to be able to do some of these things. So, yeah. And then I want to pick so many of them, but I'll just stick with that one for now.
Yeah, there's definitely a very interesting set of options there. What about you guys, Nabiha and Malyamami?
Uplifting for me.
Yeah, definitely
Very
uplifting.
Whenever we read it, we find a lot of peace in it soothes all our nervous and anxiety, and especially Surah Rahman. I love that beautiful surah. It shows all the generosity of God, how he has sent rivers and beauty and this and all the beauty in the world. And it's very nice to read that my favorite part in the Quran. So it brings peace to my heart also.
Which number is that?
Surah Rahman chapter, I would personally have to look it up.
Okay.
I want to say 33, but I may be totally off.
I'll look it up.
All right. Eiko says, I actually had a great difficulty choosing one description from the list. I can relate to that. Shanu Mami says, Quran is guidance for all mankind and a way. Oh, it's a guidance for all mankind and a way of life. Anyone anyone can easily read and follow it. Yes. Ruth says, I don't really know the Quran, but if it's anything like our Christian Bible, it must be hard to apply to everyday life without God's help. Indeed. I think like for me, definitely also it's uplifting, but at the same time, it can also be challenging to apply as you guys have mentioned. I think a lot of the other options were, like speaking to the negative stereotypes, and so they didn't speak to me. And maybe I checked in. Surah Rahman is chapter 55. Well, yes, thanks, Nabi. All right. So the last prompt that we have is I see the Bible as. Again, you guys who are having audio issues, go ahead, type in your response, and we'll start with Mary Jones and Adrian again. What were your options? What were your picks?
Yeah, I went with Secret to Life, and then also hard to apply because he says, forgive your enemies, turn the other cheek. I'm like, these are great things that will make the world a better place, but I need God's help for them. So, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I chose Full of Promises because, like someone was sharing about when they read the Quran, like I go to it and feel so much peace, and like feel like how amazing God is through reading the Bible.
True. Coolness. What about Nabiha and Malyamani?
From what I've heard of the Bible, I think it's very uplifting. Because I haven't really read it or anything.
We've not read so much, but it's probably, I'd go with uplifting. All religions are uplifting and are teaching good things anyway. So.
Coolness. All right. Shanu Mami says it's a secret of life and guidance as well. Ruth sees the Bible as a secret to life, and Erika also finds it uplifting. Coolness. All right, so that was basically our activity. And basically what we're going to do now is sort of transition into just a fluid dialogue. So I do have questions I can sort of throw out there. However, I would love to sort of, if you ladies, since we are all ladies, have any questions that you want to get us going on the discussion with, let's do that. So anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I'll throw out one of mine.
If you wanted to talk about the miracles of Muhammad, then I'm happy to hear about that. Or if you have it for later, then we can do it later.
Coolness. Awesome. So Nebi or Malia Mami, do either of you want to give that a response?
Trying to think.
The miracle, I think, would be the Quran itself.
Yeah.
Because the book itself is like a miracle. When you read all of it, and it just goes straight to the heart. So what other miracles would we say?
Can I interject?
Yes, there you go. I had something to say, but I know
that's
everyone
good.
is jumping in. That's my uncle.
So our understanding is there are some Muslims who attribute a number of different miracles to the Prophet, but then there are other people who reject. So there's a difference of opinion whether the Prophet did those miracles or not. And the reason behind, but one thing that people all agree on, that the Prophet did not know how to read and write, and he was able to deliver the message of the Quran in a very eloquent manner, and that is the miracle of the Prophet.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is, again, not everyone, as Imam indicated, is fully on board with the rest of the reports of the kinds of miracles that the Prophet Muhammad is said to have done. But just to give you a sense of there's like a story about when he created like people saw the moon split, and and he did that when people were asking for a miracle and for him to sort of give evidence of him being a prophet or something like that. And so he showed them the splitting of the moon. And there was another time when something very similar to, I think, happened with Jesus also, where they were having a meal, the community was having a meal, and they thought they'd run out of food, but the food like sort of kept showing up, and the pot didn't get empty until everyone had their fill, that kind of thing. There's also a report, I don't think it actually counts as a miracle of the Prophet, but it's sort of like a miraculous story of something that happened to him. There's a story of, and this is actually referred to in the Quran itself, that he was lifted up to heaven, and God showed him heaven and showed him other miracles, and he actually met with the prophets of the past, including Jesus and Moses and so forth, and God taught him the ritual form of Muslim prayer to bring back to us and teach it to us as a great gift from God. So, and he did this miraculous journey, all like in a very short period of time, like in the course of a night. And there were like other details associated with the story that speak of various miraculous things that kind of happened along the way. And I see Shanu Mami says, "It's a secret of life and guidance as well. Muhammad is a prophet, and God chose Prophet Muhammad and sent the Quran, which is about teachings and guidance through God. and the Prophet Muhammad is a messenger. So I think that's a response to the last prompt. Coolness. Okay. So any follow-up?
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add. In terms of human intellect development, that are the stories in the Bible and the Quran all are about miracles that all the prophets performed. And our understanding now is that the prophet, of course, the only miracle, as we talked about, was the miracle of the Quran. And the miracle that you talked about, Samia, the ascension to the heaven, that was a very private miracle. It was not for public.
Yeah.
All the other miracles that the prophets did were for public consumption, right? And that was to show the power of God. And they all acted on behalf of God to show that that the proof of God. But the Quran now is only a miracle where our intellect is supposed to figure out what does God mean.
Yeah.
So we are not going to be getting any more, at least according to our understanding, that there are not going to be any more miracles, partings of the sea, and so on, that God is going to show us. And our human intellect has evolved to a level where we have to figure out God ourselves now.
Cool. So any other follow-up on this question? No? All right. So do we have any other questions that are coming up for someone? Any of you? Can you type it in? For those of you who are having audio issues. All right. Okie dokie. So, oh, Chanwami just said, you're celebrating Easter this weekend. Can one of you describe your belief about Easter? So that's to our Christians.
Do you want me to talk about it? I guess I can talk about it.
Go ahead.
So Easter, we celebrate because you probably know the history a little bit, but you have the Jews coming out of Egypt, and so they had Passover. And then towards the end of his ministry, Jesus went up to Jerusalem during the time of Passover. And you'll hear Christians talk about the Last Supper, and that was Thursday. That was the official Passover meal that all Jews celebrated. And then there was a riot, and the people put him on the cross on Friday, and Christians believe that he was buried for 2 days. And then on the Sabbath, or Christians celebrate it on Sunday, the angels came, and Jesus was resurrected and went, and he saw a bunch of people. They say over 500 people saw him. So it's like, well, depending on whatever you believe about whether he died or not on the cross, he was definitely alive afterwards. And so, yeah, we just celebrate on Easter that he was definitely alive after the cross experience, and that he was ascended to heaven and sits at the right hand of God now. And he's able to understand us and talk to God about us, but God obviously loves us, and we have a direct line to him through prayer. So, yeah, Easter is a celebration that God is more powerful than death. So.
Yes.
Where do the chocolate eggs come from?
I am not 100% sure. Like, where does the Easter bunny come from? It's not in the Bible. Easter eggs are not in the Bible. And so there are some Christians who say that's not in the Bible, we're not celebrating it. We do not do Easter egg hunts or things like that. Yeah, Ruth is right. Spring festivals. It's from a non-Christian pagan religion.
Yeah. So sometimes we try to redeem the stories, and we say, okay, well, it is kind of about like new life, and God brings new life. Some people say that they throw that out, and they're like, no, that's wrong to interpret it that way. But it's like, okay, all life is from God. So I'm like, well, we can eat little chocolate eggs and celebrate God giving life.
Yeah. Aiko says, and if I remember correctly, the bunnies and eggs are from a non-Christian religion. It has to do with a different religion, with the fertility goddess, and not sure how to pronounce or spell the name of that fertility goddess.
Yep. So it's kind of gotten mixed in together. But the eggs and bunnies themselves don't have anything to do with Easter. We just brought them along.
Yeah, it's kind of like Christmas trees and Santa Claus for Christmas, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
interesting.
It's kind of folk stories that grow up along with things. And you can definitely challenge Christians on it, and they should be able to tell you, yeah, that's not anywhere in the Bible, but it's part of the trappings of the celebration.
Mm-hmm. And Ruth says, I like to think of the eggs, etc., as signs of God's abundance. That is a gift to us all. Very true. Yeah. Who knows? Okay, any other comment on that question, or does anyone have another question that we want to talk about?
In some ways, when I think of Easter, then I also think of the second Eid celebration, the one where you celebrate the sacrifice. I think if you had to compare the two celebrations, those probably relate most closely, because Christians tend to think of Jesus as similar to Abraham's son, and so God providing for the world a sacrifice. So sometimes when I run into that celebration, that's what I think about. But yeah, I don't know if that helps any with all the lambs, and it comes off of Passover and the same type of again God doing his wrath on something else rather than killing all the humans at once.
Yeah. Okay, I never would have made that connection, but now that you mention it, it makes sense.
So
Yeah, because we had a friend one time ask us, in Islam there's Eid al-Adha, and then in Judaism they have the Passover, but how come Christians, as our like cousins in the Abrahamic faith, they don't celebrate Passover? And we're like, well, there's a connection. It's just not always so evident about why we don't celebrate Passover or something like that, but it's connected through Easter.
we do it a few days later.
Yeah.
So,
True, and I mean, even in the Muslim tradition, we don't necessarily celebrate Passover, not in a typical sense. I mean, certainly not the way the Jews do it. But I think we do, correct me, Muslims, if I'm wrong, but I think we do have an optional fast that we recommended to engage in over the time of Passover. The only thing about that is because we're following a not adjusted lunar calendar. According to our calendar, Passover comes at different times of the year relative to the solar calendar. So our time for Passover does not match with the Jewish calendar time for Passover. At least not all the time. And so it's kind of like, huh. I mean, it's definitely, we believe in that story that it happened, that whole event happened. And it's part of our history, but obviously the Jews have a different level of connection and different level of celebration around it.
yeah, because the celebrations are all God's grace to us, and providing a lamb and providing the sacrifice. And yeah, we ended up with Easter bunnies instead of lambs now.
Indeed. And Ruth, I just noticed, she says, and Jesus' sacrifice also shows us to sacrifice ourselves to others. Okay, maybe not always by death, rather in the way we help others.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent point, Ruth. Yeah. It's just, I guess a kind of follow-up question coming to my mind, talking about Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. Do all our Christians here know the Muslim version of what happened? the story around the cross of sacrifice and crucifixion? Do you know the Muslim version?
I've heard several different Muslim versions, so what I gather is there might not be 100% agreement on it. But I haven't read all the way through the Quran, so I'm not sure what the Quran says about it. But I've heard that some people say that it wasn't Jesus on the cross, it was Judas on the cross. I've heard other people say that it was Jesus on the cross, but then Jesus didn't die. He was taken up to heaven by God instead. So I'm not sure what the Muslim view
What
would
the
be.
standard one
Yeah.
is.
Muslims, any of you, Nabi, I guess, and Maryamami, since you're the one with the working microphone, do you want to give that a go? Clarify the Muslim version of the story? You're mute. Oh, there we go.
Say it again, Tommy.
Do you want to clarify the Muslim version of the story and what happened around the crucifixion of Jesus? Is anyone about to chip in again?
Probably. No, he's saying no.
What about Man on the Cross? They could read that.
Well, there's
article.
There's an interesting article that is just posted on IslamiCity, Man on the Cross. I think that's...
Can read.
Okay, so if anyone's interested in reading that article, you can go to IslamiCity.com, or an easier way to remember the URL is just type islam.org, ISLAM, islam.org. So that takes you to the IslamiCity website. Oh, I can type it up in the chat. Islam.org. Oh, if someone else can find that article there. My sister suggesting I give you the link to the specific article that I have to look for it.
Yeah.
But I can give a quick sort of version. I think the standard version, the understanding is, like, the Quran itself doesn't give a lot of details, but the basic gist of it is that God protected Jesus because he was innocent. So he protected Jesus from being harmed, and he lifted him up directly into heaven. And a lookalike was instead actually the person people thought was Jesus on the cross was actually a lookalike. And this is not, it doesn't specify in the Quran who it was. In the Quran, it just says, you know, that it was an illusion, that people thought Jesus was on the cross, and it doesn't say who it was. So in the commentaries by the scholars and some scholars speculate that it was the person who betrayed Jesus that during in the course of that event. And I believe that was supposed to be Judas who betrayed Jesus. So I think that's a name that gets floated around. But it's just so everyone is clear, that's not 100% for sure thing from my perspective, just because it's not mentioned in the Quran. And then we do believe that, of course, since he was perfectly safe, you know, that in terms of him being seen afterwards, that, you know, it's totally plausible that it would have happened, and Jesus would have, you know, let people know that, hey, I'm all right and it's all good, and go out and spread God's word. Yeah, so that's my input on that. Goodness. Okay, and Shana Mami says, we do believe that Jesus was crucified and taken back to heaven and will be back before the day of judgment. Goodness. And Nabiha just posted the link to the actual article. Cool. Thanks, Nabi. And Ruth says, in the Christian tradition, Christ existed from the beginning of origin, and that Jesus is a historical figure that showed up on earth 2,000 years ago. We continue to explore the combination of Jesus Christ being both material Jesus and divine Christ. Cool. So any other follow-up comments on this issue or other questions? Yes. Okay, alrighty. So if you're not coming up with any questions, some of the questions that I'm thinking about is like in terms of options. One of the questions I thought of was maybe like if you can share with us one core belief of your faith. So a belief that is really important to you, that you like practice in your life, and that you basically experience as a core belief of your faith. And again, people whose audio is not working, you can take your time, type it in. And then anyone else whose audio is working, you want to give that a go? A core belief for you. You're thinking about it. So nice. I like it. Thoughtful answers.
I think one of the core beliefs for me that tends to challenge me a lot is the one that you must forgive. And God kind of requires that of us to forgive others, because he says, I've forgiven you so much more than how anyone else has ever hurt you. How can you not forgive them and expect to live with me? Because I've forgiven all of you. So I find that one pretty challenging. So I know it's not like the heaven or hell or things like that, but that one I tend to come across a lot because it's very applicable to work and life.
True. Thank you for sharing that. And I must say, I relate to that challenge in terms of implementing that belief, especially like recently with all the drama going on in the world. It's like, what? I'm supposed to forgive all of that? Yes, we are. Even as Muslims, we're supposed to forgive and then move forward in a peaceful, positive way.
A core belief is kindness to neighbors, kindness to the family, maintaining good relations with the whole family. That's very important to me, and I think that's what God likes us to be all kind to the neighbors. And I'm like, oh, what can we do for our neighbors and people we love also? So I think that's a good way of life, and important these days also, the way the world is going and the things we are seeing on the TV. It's very scary for me. So whatever goodness we can do in the world, we should do it now, So
I think, for me,
yeah.
I think a core belief would be like your intention. So whatever action you're about to take, like have a good intention.
Yeah, say a little bit more about that, maybe. Like, have a good intention. So, like, why is that important?
So it's important because, like, you're conscious of whatever you're about to do next, right? Mm-hmm. And like whatever, like no matter like how small or big an action you're about to take.
Yeah. Because in Islam, we have this very strong concept that like if you were to do a good deed in terms of actions, but your intention is not right, then it doesn't really count as a good deed. I mean, in the eyes of God. I mean, as human beings, we may not be able to tell the difference, but that's not for us to know anyway. But for God, if you don't have the right intention, then it's not a good deed. And the opposite is also true, that if you do something seemingly bad, However, you had a good intention behind it, God may see that as a bad deed. He will forgive you, or he may not even count it as a bad thing in the first place. So for us, we definitely have this very strong teaching around intention. You have to have the right intention, and therefore be aware of what your intention is in engaging in anything. Oh yeah, Eiko just says, I think one of my core beliefs is the accessibility of God's ear. What I mean is he's close and personal and hears me when I call in prayer. I believe different Christian denominations can emphasize different Christian values, but I grew up in the vineyard tradition. I was aware of a very personal God. Thanks for sharing, Aiko. And I think I very much relate to that idea also. And Ruth says her core belief is that God is grace, which manifests as love and forgiveness for everyone. As we open our spirits in this life and become more aware of Him, we get closer to Him and His way of being. Coolness, also something that I very much relate to as a Muslim. And Shanu Mami says, my core belief is to read and understand all religions, be on the right path, and guide everyone towards peace and living in harmony. Live life with the right values. I also relate to that. Thank you everyone for sharing your core beliefs. Does anyone have any follow-up comments or questions following up to any of the core beliefs that we have shared with each other so far?
I think a comment I want to say is Christians believe in one God. And sometimes because of the way we talk about him, it might sound like we believe in three gods, but it's one God, and we do all agree on that. Jesus says it's one God, like all the Old Testament says it's one God. So I think something I've been realizing is the way we talk about it makes it sound confusing. So it's like, yeah, core belief is one God, so we can all agree on that.
True. Definitely, I think if I was to mention a core belief for me as a Muslim, I would definitely also say that. In fact, even from a very technical standpoint, if you want to, let's say, convert to Islam or become a Muslim, the very first thing you have to do is to accept and recite the testimony of faith, which says there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the prophet of God. And to say there is no God but God, we are saying there is one God. So, Ruth says, yes, the concept of the Trinity can be quite confusing. Yeah. And it's a very interesting, for me from an interfaith perspective, it's always very interesting to talk to Christians about the varying concepts of Trinities and the way each one understands the concept of the Trinity and relates to it. It's very, very engaging issue of dialogue.
Yeah.
Coolness. Okay, any other follow-up comments on... Okay, Ruth says, in a simple example, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, and a wife, but I'm still only one person. Cool. That's a good example. Awesome. Are there any other follow-up comments or questions relating to core beliefs? Oh, can you explain about the Trinity a bit? Shani says. So I guess that's either to Eiko or Mary Jones. What's your perspective?
One of the best things I've ever heard was actually from a Muslim who reminded us God is too big for us to completely know. And so the Trinity sometimes is a way for us to think about him, but even in that, it's impossible for man to completely know God. So sometimes we use it to describe him and try to wrap our minds a little bit around who he is. So I don't want to go too far in depth because it can go around for hours, and Christians have had arguments for thousands of years on this. But just the fact that God can be there for your every need, and God created the world, God does everything, but at the same time, I think both the Quran and the Bible say, like, he loves you more than your mother does. He counts every hair on your head. So just kind of the understanding that you can relate to him in multiple ways. So I think that might help without getting too far.
True. And Nico says the best example I've seen of the Trinity is a professional pianist playing a chord. The chord is 3 notes playing 1 chord. Very nice. Yeah, definitely. I think like this idea of God manifesting himself to us in different forms and in different ways, even simultaneously, is something we can all get behind as Muslims and Christians.
Yeah.
Very nice. Ruth says that's true. Christians are still grappling with the Trinity. In fact, many denominations pretty much ignore talking about it. Yeah.
Because we want to focus on things that matter, like how do you love God better and how do you love people better. So sometimes at a certain point, sometimes it's not helpful to talk about theological concepts if they're just making you more angry at your neighbor rather than helping them.
Yes. You know, we have in the Muslim tradition, we have our own theological debates that actually created deep divides in the community over the course of Islamic history, and yet there are issues that don't really have any impact on our everyday ability to live as good people and better people and get closer to God. And so most of us, like as lay people, lay Muslims, we will ignore those debates also. And just to give you a quick example of like what I'm talking about, there's this debate on this question of, was the Quran created by God at some point in time, or is it like an eternal thing that's always existed? And oh my God, people like there are people who like actually fought over this question, like literally fought wars over this question historically. And it's like, really? I mean, really?
When you can obey it all fully, then you can decide.
Yeah, and does it really even matter? Like, you know, those who say that it was like created at a certain point are talking about it in the context of, okay, at some point it got revealed in the particular form it is now. It's like in this physical sort of form that we know it now. And the people who are like, it's eternal, say, oh, it's the word of God and God's always existed. So God's word has always existed. At least that's how I understand the two sides of the argument. And I'm like, to me, it sounds like both are right in their own way. And why were we fighting wars about this? I don't get it. So, yeah, that's just, I think, part of the human experience of religion and how we practice our religions. We can get caught up in things. Yes. Okay, so any other follow-up on core belief related ideas? All right. Okay, so the next question. Oh, we have a question. Christians have fought over predestination or free will. Aiko says, are we chosen or do we choose God? Alrighty, Mary Jones, you want to give that a go first, and then I'll ask one of our Muslims to comment on it.
Sure. Yes, so predestination, that just means some people believe that we're predestined to become lovers of God or people who are just going to disobey him. So we're basically predestined to choose him or to not choose him. And so some people say, yes, this is how life is. Other people say, oh, that's so unfair. How could a good God choose before you're born that some people are going to go to hell or not be around him or be mean to people? So, yeah, there's been lots of arguments. I'll stop there. That's the basic question.
Yeah.
And so I guess sometimes people use it to say, oh, I don't need to talk to certain people about God because if they're going to find him they're going to find him. We'll go with Ruth's comment. I'm just so glad that God is close to me that I have no concern whether this was predestination or free will. And it's like you have a love for God, and hopefully you share it with everyone you meet. And you want their lives to be better, your life to be better, more of God's kingdom on earth, more of the straight path, all of it together. So it comes down to, am I going to be loving to this person and sharing with this person? Well, before God, I want to be like God in the best form of him that we can think of, and that's being generous to everyone. And until we die, I shouldn't be judging whether someone's going to heaven or not. So it's God's will to judge. So whether or not someone's predestined, I need to share everything I can.
True. Muslim perspective, Nabi and Malia Mami, do you want to speak to the Muslim perspective on this issue?
So the question was, are we chosen or do we choose God?
The broader question is around predestination and free will.
Okay. That's a good question. I think. Do you want to say anything?
I'm still thinking about it. Well, I was just. Yeah, I know sometimes people ask me if we know if we'll go to heaven or hell. Why didn't God just put us in heaven or hell when he knows what we'll do and what things we would do? Why create the whole earth and then let us do those good deeds and bad deeds? And then why didn't he just put us directly where we belong? We might be going. But we did have to come on earth, get to know everybody is created differently. And he's created everyone different, which is more interesting also. If we were all the same, it would be such a boring earth anyway, like all of us doing the same thing anyway. So it is his will in a way that we are different religions, we are different people with different colors and having different beliefs. But the bottom thing is to have good intentions and just try our best wherever we are, try our best and do good things on earth so that we can one day all be rewarded. That's what I can say.
Yeah, hey, and Aika, don't be sorry. She says, I meant to bring up this question as an example of how Christians have also argued. Didn't mean to bring it up as a question to talk about what we can talk about. I'm glad you brought it up. It's a really interesting question that actually Muslims have also argued about and continue to argue about. And, I mean, I found a way to understand this question in a way that makes sense to me personally, and I'm very happy with my understanding. But yeah, for sure, like there's lots of disagreement because when we talk about, like if you talk about getting an Islam 101 lesson, most people will talk to you about the 5 pillars of Islam and what we call the 6 pillars of faith. And so the 5 pillars of Islam are related to sort of the ritual acts of worship that we are supposed to engage in. And then the 6 pillars of faith are supposed to be related to intellectual ideas that we are supposed to hold and that form sort of like to sort of create the foundation on which the rest of the ideas are built. And one of those 6 pillars of faith is supposed to be belief in this idea of predestination. And then we argue with each other about, well, what does that really mean? Because we also believe in the idea of free will, that God has made us able to choose to be good or choose to be bad, to choose to follow him or choose not to follow him. And so it's like, well then where does predestination come in? Because there are Muslims, who will say, and pretty much all of us will agree, that this statement that not even a leaf can move without God's will. And so that's the sense of that's just how much in control of everything God is. And so it's like, okay, all right, so God's in full control and he has given us free will. So but I think that makes sense. It's like, yes, God could have controlled us, but he's choosing not to. Like he's giving us a certain amount of leeway. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. These might be a little too far on the side, but I'll mention it, and if you want to move on, we can. We had someone talking with us a few weeks ago about the earth and about how God first created it. And he created it with a garden where Adam and Eve lived, and he commanded them to rule over the garden, to fill the earth, to multiply and subdue it. And you're like, oh, subdue, that's kind of a big word. And later in the story, you find out like, oh, Satan had already turned bad, had already turned against God, and earth was kind of his prison. And God's idea was kind of to have the humans multiply and love God and keep spreading goodness all over until like basically they filled the entire earth with the glory of God, with the knowledge of God. So I was like, oh, that gives a much greater reason to be here on earth. Is our goal is to bring more of heaven on earth, to have more of that in our lives. It's not very easy, but it was like, okay, this is what we're here for. We're here to practice being like God. So
yeah, I really like that. I think that's a really cool way of looking at things. Actually, do anyone else have a comment on that before I say my bit? No, alrighty. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's actually a really interesting idea. And since it's 2:16, maybe we can sort of transition a little bit into the wrap-up aspect of our dialogue. And so the thought that came to me is, how many of you would be interested in sort of continuing to participate in such online dialogue events? And so we could either, first of all, let me just stop right there. So how many of you would be interested in continuing to participate in such online dialogue events? Ruth says online works great. So that's one more. Anyone else who'd like to do it again in the future? Shana Mami says yes. That's 2. Woo-hoo. Anyone else? Oh, and Mary Jane and Aiko are raising their hands. Okay, that's 3, 4, and me 5. Is that all of us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Okay. All right. Coolness. Awesome. So it looks like we're all waiting to come back together. So that's awesome. So what we can do is next time we meet, we can pick a specific topic to speak about. Today was sort of like a let's get to know us in general, in a broad sort of way. Next time we can pick a specific topic and delve deeper into it. And the thought that just came to me was, what if we sort of talk about the story of Adam and Eve in the Quran and in the Bible, and sort of delve into that and gain a deeper appreciation and understanding of the lessons we can learn from that story. Does everyone like that idea? Yay! Okay, alrighty, coolness. Awesome. So that's definitely an option. And then if you guys have other ideas of other things we can talk about in future sessions that we do together, please go ahead and you can speak them to me now, and I'll take a note on it, or you can type them in chat, and then I'll make sure to preserve the documentation so we can make that happen.
Yeah, I think it could also be good to go through some of like, how do you experience your faith? Like, how do you experience prayer? How do you experience actually walking out whatever your religion tells you you need to do? And like get to know each other a little bit more on a heart-to-heart friendship level too. Just because that'll help help us understand each other. So.
Yeah. So like prayers and rituals, like talking about them and exploring them more. And then when you say get to know each other, like heart to heart, what are you thinking of a specific, like how specifically should we get more heart to heart?
Well, yeah, I think sharing like what do you feel, what do you think when you pray, things like that, rather than just like yeah, it's important to both talk about what the religions probably mean at a great big macro level, but also what does it mean to you, a person. So
what it means to us personally. Yeah, that's really cool. Awesome. Okay, and Shanamami says you can also talk about the 5 pillars of Islam, which includes prayer. So that's kind of like Islam 101. Like, is there a Christian equivalent to the idea of like 5 pillars of Islam? Like if you had to give like a brief, these are 5 fundamental things Christians practice in terms of ritual actions or something like that.
we could probably come up with some. Like we don't go through them in that format, but yeah, there's some key things that we're like, if you do this every day or if you do this every week, you're going to grow in your faith.
Coolness. And the thing about the 5 pillars of Islam is that if you actually look at the concepts of them, they're fairly broad. So like we all, in both our traditions, we pray, in both our traditions, we fast, in both our traditions, we have the idea of charity and pilgrimage and belief in one God. So
and it could be super interesting to go through the scriptures that support those. Like, where from your scriptures are those supported? So.
Cool. All right, so we could just do like a series on like the 5 pillars in the sense of those broader concepts.
Yeah, because then it's very organized. That's easy.
Coolness. Alrighty. Aiko also likes the idea of sharing your personal faith, like Mary said. And all right, awesome. So we have some great options for future topics. That's at least 6 we have counted, like the 5 pillars of faith and the story of Adam and Eve. Coolness. Okay. Aiko says there is kind of an idea out there. We don't need to do it, but there is a phenomenal French movie called Of Gods and Men. It's about Christian monks in a Muslim community. Oh, interesting. So,
have you watched it?
I have not. I've never actually heard of it. Interesting. So maybe we could like find the movie watch it on our own and then talk about it? Is that what you're thinking, Eiko? Oh, and it's on Netflix, Shanamami says. Okay, coolness.
No, I think she's asking if it's on Netflix.
Oh, is it on Netflix? Oh, she's asking. Okay. No, I'm asking. She's asking. Okay. Oh, I don't know. Ah, and Eiko was thinking we watch the movie at some point and then discuss it. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm open to that idea. Let's see that.
Yeah, I don't know at all how it presents either religion, but that also might be decent to talk about. Like, how does the media and movies present us? And do we agree or do we disagree with how they presented it? So,
Okay. Let's see. So, how the media portrays us, and do we like it or not? And it's like a live topic for us Muslims, for sure. Okay, and Shanumami says she can check if the movie is on Netflix and let us know later. All right, great. Okay, so another question that I have in terms of future, how we can continue to connect and do things even better. So obviously today I deliberately made sure we had a relatively small group just so we could test things out, and I didn't know how things might go. So for next time, should we try expanding the group a little bit, or should we just stick to the size? What do you think?
I think expanding it should be fine. There is a limit on Google Hangouts, right?
Yeah, like for people to be on screen, we can have up to 10 people. So right now we are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we could have up to 4 more people on screen, but we can also have unlimited numbers of people just watching. So they wouldn't be able to come on screen, but they could still chat with us. So for the people who have been chatting with us, this is a great point of feedback from you guys. How was your experience? Do you think it was worth it for you to be here today, even though you couldn't, you couldn't speak and you couldn't hear, just being on chat? So if we open it up to other people who can only be on chat. Okay, and you're, to be sure, typing your answers. Even just being on chat is good, Ruth says. Okay, coolness. Sorry about the microphone, but yes, it was worth it. Okay, coolness. Awesome. Okay, great. So next time we can definitely promote it a lot more and have more, encourage more people to participate. Coolness. And okay, so that brings me to my next question. Maybe we can like set a tentative schedule for future meetings. I know we won't be able to set exact dates right now, which it won't be practical, but should we maybe at least agree on a frequency? So like maybe once a month or twice a month or whatever other frequency you think would be workable. Shanumani says once a month.
yeah.
Mary Jo says once a month. Any other? Ruth says, think Ruth, that's the other. Once a month is good. Okay, and around the middle of the month.
Yeah.
Once a month. Okay, all right. Sounds
Yeah, I think once a month as well.
okay, coolness. So we can definitely schedule something around the middle of May, and helicopter overhead. Okay, so it looks like everyone is in agreement about once a month is good. And once around the middle of the month, we'll try to make it happen. And let's see, what's today? Saturday. Are Saturday mornings around this time generally good for people? Yeah. Okay. Coolness. Awesome. So next time we'll try to keep around the same time on a Saturday. Coolness. And then I guess the last question I had was, obviously today I kept it Muslim and Christian, because I thought it would be easier to manage in terms of if you're discussing an idea, like we don't have 100 different opinions. Although we could actually, even as just Muslims, come up with 100 different opinions on anything.
We can come up with 1,000 from the Christian side, so at least 100.
Yeah. Well, so hopefully, at least by keeping it just Muslim Christian, I was like, we can keep it kind of contained. But we could potentially open it up to other faith traditions and just have it not just Muslim Christian, but any faith. What do you think about that? Give it a try or not?
I think it's a lot easier to get Christians to be able to focus on one faith at a time, like in comparison contrast, especially because Islam has so much in common once you start looking at it. It's like, oh, it's a lot easier for us to agree. A lot of the more conservative Christians are going to have a really hard time dealing with any religion that has more than one God. So we could definitely open it up, but you're going to get a kind of different type of person. So it just depends on, like, is the goal just to get people more familiar with each other, talking with each other, because you'll be able to get more people involved.
Yeah. Well, okay, so maybe we'll sort of test that out as we go along, and maybe depending on what topic we're talking about, some of the topics may be more conducive to just having a multi-faith involvement, whereas others may not. So, like, for example, if we're talking about prayer, it's a broad enough concept that maybe
Everybody can.
everybody, yeah. Okay, all right, so we'll test that out. We'll figure it out as we go along. Awesome. Okay, so we're 1:29, and I know we had some technical difficulties in the beginning, so we started a little late. But I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if anyone absolutely needs to go, please feel free to go. I will not take any offense at all. If you are able to stay on for another maybe 5 minutes, I would love to hear some feedback from you on maybe like one thing that you loved about our time together. And if you have any feedback on one thing that maybe improved for the future. Yeah, we'll wrap up with that. So people with working microphones will probably have to, get to go first. Whenever you're ready.
I think I really liked the little interactive activity. Okay. We went a tad bit fast on trying to decide on an option. And I was just looking at my Google to see if there's an option for like little polls. I don't see that there's an option right now, but that might be kind of fun to see everyone's answers come in. It's good we had a small enough people, we can all talk individually. But if we get 30 plus on here, then it could be fun to do a little poll where you can see the answers come up.
Yes, and next time actually I can also instruct everyone to type in their options in the chat. So that way you could see answers coming in even if you can't have a poll function.
Yeah.
And I can definitely slow things down also in the future. Thank you for that feedback.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Awesome. China Mami, she liked that idea also. Enjoyed the conversation with everyone. We'll fix mic for next time. Awesome. Coolness. Okay. Anyone else who loved something or has any feedback on something else we can improve? Oh, right. Okay. Maybe you don't have anything to say?
No, I definitely enjoyed this. Also, didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So-
No
so,
traffic.
yeah, there's no traffic. Didn't-
Yay, woohoo.
I'm back. Yeah, very entertaining. It was fun, nice to interact with other and learn a little bit about the other faiths as well, and increasing our knowledge for sure.
Okay. Cool. So Aiko says she wants to give the mic another try. So go ahead and just unmute yourself and let's give it another try. Okay, we can hear you, but
Is it not good?
actually it's better than before. You're sounding very low volume, but at least it was clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I'll talk about my answer.
Uh-oh, it got choppy again.
Can you hear me?
Oh no, it got choppy again, Aiko. Aww. Okay, no worries. Okay. No worries, no worries. Alrighty. So, Shani Mami says, thank you all for giving me the time to get to know you all. And thank you, everybody, for participating. Coolness. Okay. So, let's see. Aiko's favorite part was the idea of doing an Adam and Eve study. Coolness. Usually I do Bible studies with other Christians. Yes, and now we'll do Bible and Quran study together. Woohoo! Awesomeness. Okay. Coolness. All right. Any other last words on something you loved? Okay, maybe change the question a little. One thing you learned today that you appreciated learning or that you liked learning. And we'll end with that. One thing you learned that you appreciated learning today.
I think I definitely appreciate learning about Easter, especially because it is going on, or it was this weekend. So that was interesting.
Coolness.
Yeah.
Maria Mami, you
Yes.
know what that?
Yes, I said nice to know a little bit about Easter because I all I saw was the bunnies in the shop, so I didn't know what's going on. It's good to know more about Easter.
Coolness. And
We've
January.
never been to an Easter dinner then. We'll have to have you come to an Easter dinner.
Yeah, sure.
You learn a whole lot more if you actually come and eat the food. So.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. You wouldn't
That's
stop eating. Cool. And Ruth is signing off. All right, bye, Ruth. Some of us are meeting at our church to decorate the sidewalks around the building with Easter greetings and designs. Fun stuff. Yeah, for sure. Have fun, Ruth. And thank you for joining us. Cool. And Aiko loved learning about that Judas perhaps was the one who was on the cross. Cool.
I think I like hearing about Sarah Rahman, so I'm going to have to go look it up and read it since it's the one that brings our friends so much peace.
Coolness.
peace
That's
and
awesome.
love.
Cool.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, everybody, once again so much for being here, for giving us your time. And I'll definitely plan our next event and keep you in the loop of that. And I'm looking forward to our continuing these awesome conversations. So take care, everybody.